the Kenya Corporate Sustainability and Leadership Forum. I just want to start by recognizing the presence of our chief guest, Principal Secretary in the State Department of Environment and Climate Change, Dr. Engineer Festus Ngeno. I want to recognize the presence of Ambassador Amina Mohammed, who is the patron of Alive Foundation, as well also, of course, my own boss, our Director General for ICRAF and Chief Executive Officer of the Landscape Alliance, Dr. Elian Ubalijoro. My name is Dr. Philip Osano. I am the Chief Operating Officer at the Landscape Alliance. We are very privileged to host you today. My role is very simple. I would start by inviting our speakers for this session in the morning, for the opening session. So allow me, of course, to invite Dr. To give us our welcome remarks. So Elian, please let's do a round of applause for Elian as she comes.
Good morning, everyone. So Dr. Engineer Festus K. Ngeno, the Principal Secretary, State Department of Environment and Climate Change, distinguished representatives of government, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, private sector leaders, partners from the Alive Foundation, KEPSA and KCB Group, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Landscape Alliance, our brand name for C4 and ICRAF in action, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the ICRAF campus and to the Kenya Corporate Sustainability Leadership Forum. We are especially pleased to welcome leaders from across Kenya's private and public sectors whose experience and influence will be vital to advancing a more resilient and sustainable economy. This gathering comes at an important moment as Kenya's private sector considers how sustainability can contribute more directly to resilience, competitiveness, and long-term prosperity. Exactly 1 month ago, we gathered on this campus for a high-level exchange on tree-powered bioeconomies in Africa. That discussion brought together leaders from across the continent and beyond to consider how trees, agroforestry, and forest-based biological resources can generate high-value goods and services that are renewable, circular, climate-smart, and sustainable. Today's forum takes that conversation forward by asking how Kenya's corporate sector can help turn this potential into investment, enterprise, and measurable impact. Many companies represented here have already invested significantly in communities, environmental programs, and tree growing initiatives. These efforts matter. They have built awareness, mobilized employees, and demonstrate a willingness to contribute to the public good. The opportunity before us now is to build on that foundation. We must connect corporate sustainability more closely to enterprise strategy, scientific evidence, outcomes, and long-term value creation. And we must do so in a way that responds to the evolving expectations of regulators, investors, customers, and communities on environmental, social, and governance performance. Trees offer a powerful place to begin. A tree is more than a carbon asset. Trees protect soils, regulate water, support biodiversity, strengthen agriculture productivity, and help communities withstand climate shocks. They make supply chains more resilient and create new opportunities in foods, timber, fiber, energy, and other bioeconomies. This is critical in terms of how we're addressing the triple threat of climate, food security, and nature loss. So critical to UPS. When trees are integrated thoughtfully into farms, forests, cities and degraded landscapes, they become productive infrastructure. Yes, I did say infrastructure. And so what's really key about having this as infrastructure is nature infrastructure generates value for farmers, for companies, communities, and the country. Yet achieving this requires us to move beyond counting how many seedlings were distributed, how many trees were planted on a particular day. We must ask harder questions. Were they the right trees planted in the right places? Do they respond to the priorities of farmers and communities? Will they survive? And what management will they require over time? Can their environmental, social, and economic value be measured, monitored, and reported? Are benefits shared fairly along value chains and across communities? Can companies confidently disclose the results to investors, regulators, customers, and the public in line with emerging ESG standards? These questions are central to credible environmental, social governance leadership. In an age where everything happens at the speed of trust, how we bring scientific evidence to this space becomes even more critical. As reporting frameworks become more rigorous and expectations around climate and nature-related risk continues to grow, companies need reliable evidence to understand their impacts, manage risk, and demonstrate progress. As the action it reflects. Science must therefore sit at the core of this transition. At the Landscape Alliance, we help connect ambition with evidence and evidence with action. Drawing on decades of research across soil health, forests, trees, agroforestry, restoration, biodiversity, climate, food systems, and livelihoods, we provide the knowledge and tools needed to monitor change, assess impact, and identify what works in different landscapes. Our commitment is to work with governments, businesses, financial institutions, and communities to ensure that investments in nature are scientifically sound, socially responsible, and capable of delivering lasting value. That is why the Kenya Tree Economy Initiative is so timely. KITEI is envisioned as a long-term national platform connecting corporate capital, scientific expertise, and community-based landscape restoration. It seeks to create a practical pathway from corporate responsibility to integrated ESG leadership, and from individual projects to an investable and verifiable tree economy. Over these 2 days, we will examine the regulatory and reporting landscape, explore the business case for trees and nature-based solutions, and consider the technologies that can make commitments measurable and transparent. Equally important, we will begin designing what this platform should become, its membership, standards, governance, and roadmap from commitment to implementation. The value of this forum will therefore be measured by what happens after we leave this room. Will we establish credible standards? Will we create investable programs? Will we build long-term partnerships? Will we make commitments that can be tracked, verified, and reported? The program has deliberately been designed to move from diagnosis and scientific evidence to sector-level commitments and the roadmap for KITEI's launch. I invite each of you to participate openly and ambitiously. Bring your experience, your concerns, and your ideas. It's really key that as we think of how to move forward, you help us identify where science can add value to your business, where finance can unlock action, and where collaboration can achieve what individual institutions cannot accomplish alone. Kenya has the leadership, scientific capability, entrepreneurial energy, and natural assets to become a regional leader in the tree economy and in science-backed ESG practice. What we need now is the institutional architecture, investment, and shared accountability to bring those strengths together. Let this forum mark the beginning of that journey. Karibuni sana, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring 2 days.
Another round of applause. So we are here today because at the end of April, we are hosting another conference on the implications of the International Court of Justice advisory opinion on state obligation on climate action. And one of our speakers at that forum was Ambassador Amina Mohamed. And just before she came to give a speech, we had a very short session where she was meeting our DG, and that's how this was incubated. We talked about how we could work together. So, Ambassador, we are really pleased that we've seen this come to pass. And subsequently, also would like to thank KCB. I see Judy is here, and KEPSA, Dr. Koimbori is here, because together with the Ambassador Amina Foundation team and our team here, they've been working really hard to make sure everything comes together. So I think on behalf of partners, on behalf of KCB, KEPSA, I would like to maybe at this point just call on Ambassador Amina before our keynote speech to maybe say a word or two. Let's give a round of applause to Ambassador as she comes.
Good morning. So I'm extremely delighted to be here, DG. And I think I'm going to become a very frequent guest at ICRAF. We've been neighbors for a long time. I think I'm visiting this campus much more now than I ever did before. So let me just start by recognizing yourself, DG, our keynote speaker for this morning, the Principal Secretary, Dr. Ngeno. Thank you for being here. We're extremely delighted that you are able to come. Distinguished guests, our partners, obviously we're really grateful. I don't think this would have happened without your support. But let me just remind ourselves that after the meeting we had, DG, here with you, and we agreed on the journey that we are starting today. We actually had a pre-forum breakfast and then you are very well represented, by the way. Yeah, very, very well represented at Nairobi Club. And I will just say something, really, really brief about that breakfast. So a few weeks ago, at our pre-forum breakfast, I said something and would like to repeat that this morning, because it's the foundation upon which everything we do will stand. The Kenya Tree Economy Initiative, KETE, is not about competition, it's about collaboration. No bank, no government, and I think this morning when we had our short meeting in your office, DG, the PS also repeated that no bank, no government agency, no research institution, no foundation will restore Kenya's landscapes or transform her economy alone. And that we need to do this together with science from Landscape Alliance, finance from our corporate sector, risk assessment from our insurers, policy from government, and leadership from our communities. Together we can do what none of us could ever do alone. So let's be honest about the moment we are in, the exit of many of the donors who for decades, almost single-handedly, supported many of the initiatives that we still have to undertake. And they left a gap measured not only in dollars, but in confidence. But hear me clearly, the donors may have left the table, but the table is still ours. It belongs to us. The land is ours. The future is still about us. The only question is whether we as Kenyans will take up our position and lead it well, and whether we will head it well. The world has already proven that this model works. In Latin America, a restoration coalition has mobilized $2.5 billion in private investment. Across Africa, and DG, you've talked about this before, 34 nations have committed over 129 million hectares to restoration. 129 million hectares to restoration. But no country, not one, has yet built a tree economy owned and financed by its own private sector, its own corporate sector. We will be the first. Kenya will be the first, and that is what Kete is. And Kete answers this moment with a resounding yes. Yes, we can report to global standards. Through Kete, Kenyan enterprises will report on IFRS sustainability standards with the same vigor and rigor as any company in London, in New York, or in Singapore. When the world sets a date for disclosure, Kenya will not be rushing to catch up. We will be ready, and we will be credible. Yes, we can create employment. The tree economy is not about a charity line item. It is an industry. And DG, I'm so glad you refer to it as infrastructure. With us coming together, Kete can create several revenue streams, from nurseries and agroforestry to carbon markets and green finance. Creation of jobs and sustained indirect livelihoods throughout grower farms that will focus on women and on youth. And yes, we can uplift our communities. Every seedling planted under Kete is rooted in a community. Households with new incomes, cooperatives with new markets, counties with new revenue. Development that does not reach the village is not development at all. And yes, we can make Kenya food secure. Trees are not the rival of the farm. They are its guardian. Agroforestry restores our soils. It shields our water towers. It steadies our harvests against the changing climate. A Kenya rich in trees is a Kenya that feeds itself. So here's my challenge. We should not be asking about the gains that Kete, that we can gain from Kete ahead of your neighbor. Ask what we can build together, jointly, in collaboration. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to walk fast, and I think all of us know that proverb, you walk alone. But if you want to go far, you walk together. Kenya is not walking fast today. Kenya is going far. We're not building a dream. We're building a legacy that will outlive us all. Let us plant it together. And before I thank you and say the final words, I just wanted to repeat what the DG actually said. And I think that that's what we now need to really focus on. And that, and it's about these three transformative ideas. The trees are infrastructure. And I think that case has been made. I will not repeat it. Natural capital is economic capital. And that Kenya, Africa by extension, must own the value that it creates. And with that, I'll thank you, and may God bless our beloved country.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause. I would like to invite Dr. Koimburi very quickly. Dr. Koimburi, KEPSA is a great partner for us. So allow me to request you to speak for 3 minutes because I'm trying to manage. I know our keynote speaker has to leave, so please, just very quickly.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. The opening remarks were already prepared, so I was asking Osana, where will I take it? So thank you so much for that. And before I begin, let me just say my name is Dr. Jackson Koimburi, working with KEPSA. Standing on the already established protocols, I want to say good morning to everybody. And maybe before I begin and go into the salutations and why we're here, I wish to personally acknowledge all the special guests who are here. And I think I'm standing on a very rich knowledge hub who are present here, people who have experience in this space, and I'm happy to be embraced in that space also. Just on the same sentiment, I wish to also acknowledge Dr. Engineer Festus Ngeno, just to raise a point and a clarification that one time as a youth, he has mentored me. I think he's also smiling, you can see that. He was my former boss. Nilikuwa kijana wake wa mkono hapa na pale. But I think even from the Bible, when you read Proverbs 27:17, it says iron sharpens iron. So I think he sharpened me well, and I was able to earn my PhD, and now I'm in the same field with him. So I'm very, very humbled. So with that, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the launch of the Kenya Tree Economic Initiative, KETE, and the Kenya Corporate Sustainability and Leadership Forum. On behalf of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, I thank the Alive Foundation, the Landscape Alliance, KCB Group Foundation, and all other partners for convening this important forum. We gather at a defining moment when sustainability has evolved from corporate responsibility to a strategic business imperative. Today's forum provides a platform to strengthen in partnership that will accelerate investment in nature, enhance business resilience, and position Kenya as a leader in the green economy. Before I proceed, let me briefly introduce KEPSA. So Kenya Private Sector Alliance is the apex body representing Kenya private sector businesses, bringing together over 80 business member organizations and representing over 2 million businesses across all sectors of the economy. KEPSA also hosts the ICC Kenyan chapter, that is the International Chamber of Commerce, which has an extension of 45 million members. The reason I wanted to mention these numbers is because numbers bring about decision making, and also it brings about the voice when you want to create change. So just to jump on a few segments, because I know time is not on my side, Kenya has a unique opportunity to lead the Africa's nature positive transition. The 15 billion tree growing program, of which our PS here is the champion within it, together with the carbon market reforms and regulations that we already have, with NEMA having, through the ministry, having enacted the carbon registry, nearly 90% of the electricity generated in Kenya is renewable. So Kenya is already a regional leader in green growth and is well positioned to unlock the new opportunities in nature finance. Biodiversity also is something that we as the businessmen are saying is no longer business as usual. And that's why the debate of ESG and CSR is something very key to us. Just to raise some few numbers here is that Gabon is a key example, that it became the first African country to receive result-based payments for reducing carbon emissions to a tune of 17 million USD, which was just a deposit or a tranche, a first tranche of the total amount which they were awarded, which is 115 million USD. The reason being, Gabon has a forest cover as of now going to 90% forest cover. Kenya, we are aiming to that, and the reason I needed to do that as a benchmark is for Kenya, where we are at around 10 to 13%, we can aim for 90%. And they were earning 150 million USD free money. So that's something that I'm saying is a challenge for us as conveners here. Just as I wrap up on the same is that over the next 2 days, we will hear the leading policymakers, scientists, investors, regulators discuss one of the key issues on ESG and CSR. And as I conclude, let us recognize that trees are not environmental assets, but also economic infrastructure that underpins resilient businesses, secure value chains, thriving communities, and sustainable economic growth. Together, let us position Kenya as an African leading destination for corporate ESG. And on behalf of KEPSA, I thank all partners, speakers, and delegates for your participation and wish you a productive deliberation moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You passed by 1 minute. Okay, allow me, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, at this stage to invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Engineer Festus Ngeno, Principal Secretary, State Department on Environment and Climate Change, to give you a keynote remarks, but also to open the forum. A round of applause.
Thank you so much, Dr. Osano. Dr. Elian Bajoro, the Director DG Grab and CEO of Landscape Alliance, Ambassador Amina Mohamed, Patron Alive, and of course, I recognize the good service that you offer to government. So I was telling you, I will also be meeting your former colleague, also CS Betty Maina. So it's my time to be meeting former Dr. Jason Koimburi, my good friend, head of Cape South Council, and we work together. And Dr. Elian, I have another young man you are working here. I'm mentoring this one also. Yeah, part and parcel of my cohort. Working with young men is good. Captains of the industry and corporate leaders, chief sustainability officers and ESG directors, esteemed delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm also excited to be here. We are really truly appreciative that this event is happening, and I'm passing greetings from my Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Deborah Barasa, and also my PS colleague responsible for forestry, Mr. Kitonga Mugambi, who is responsible for forestry. And we are truly appreciative that it is my honor to welcome you again to this landmark convening the founding forum of the Kenya Tree Economy Initiative, KETEI. And as he mentioned, and I truly appreciate the remarks that we need to look at the trees as infrastructure, and I think that's a conversation that we have been having as government. And even as we push towards the 15 billion presidential directive tree growing initiative, as I was telling the team, that we need a lot of resources, and it is possible to crowd the resources from the private sector and philanthropies and all of us to be able to deliver this, that it could not be done by government alone, that the government only provides the catalyst and the infrastructure support to deliver, but in terms of resources, we can be able to provide that space for you. Today we gather, ladies and gentlemen, at a moment of profound opportunity and urgent necessity. As government, we have placed environmental sustainability and climate action at the heart of our national development agenda. Kenya's national determinant contribution, the NDCs, our Vision 2030, and our green growth ambitions, all set on one fundamental premise, that we cannot pursue economic transformation without safeguarding the natural capital that sustains it. But government alone cannot deliver this vision. It requires a partnership, a deliberate strategic alliance between public policies, scientific excellence, and private sector capital. And that is precisely what this forum represents. Let me begin with a proposition that ESG is not a compliance burden. It is a strategic opportunity, perhaps the greatest opportunity of our generation, to transform how business creates value in Kenya and globally. The concept note for this forum accurately identifies that most of the CSR activity remains episodic, program-based, and disconnected from the enterprise strategy. But today I want to reframe the conversation. I want us to move from what ESG requires to what ESG enables. Firstly, ESG represents us as a competitive advantage and market positioning. Global capital is moving decisively towards sustainably aligned investments. The international financial reporting standards, IFRS S1 and S2, are becoming the global language of corporate accountability. And I know I'm talking to corporates here. That the Task Force on Climate-related Financial Disclosures and the Task Force on Nature-based related financial disclosures are reshaping investor expectations. And Kenyan companies are embedded ESG into their core strategy will achieve the following. One, they'll assess preferential capital from development finance institutions and impact investors. And we are so happy. This is a season of launching of sustainability reports, and we have a lot lined up activities as a government, and we are looking forward that most companies will be able to do this as we progress. Secondly, they will command premium valuations in public and private markets. Thirdly, that they will secure competitive advantage in regional and international supply chains. And fourthly, that they will build resilient brand equity with increasingly conscious consumers. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, those who wait will find themselves locked out of global value chains, paying higher costs for capital and defending reputations that competitors have already secured. the opportunity is very clear. ESG leadership is about market leadership. Secondly, ESG will transform Kenya's biodiversity and natural capital. We all appreciate that Kenya is blessed with extraordinary biodiversity, from our forests, our water towers, to our savannas and coastal ecosystems. Yet we are losing this natural capital at an alarming rate. Deforestation, land degradation, and biodiversity loss threaten not only our environment, but our economy, our food systems, and our livelihoods. ESG, therefore, provides the framework for corporates in Kenya to become the steward of this natural heritage. And through KT's pillars, your organizations will achieve the following. One, they will restore degraded landscapes through community-based tree enterprises. Secondly, we will protect our water towers that sustain agriculture, energy, and urban supplies. Thirdly, we'll be able to enhance our biodiversity through agroforestry systems that create wildlife corridors. Fourthly, we'll build climate resilient supply chains in coffee, tea, dairy, cocoa, and horticulture. And fifthly, we will invest in green spaces that help control pollution and urban heat in our cities, making them clean, healthier, and livable places for all of us. And on that fifth point, I want to stress the importance that this the President has been putting on the Nairobi River Regeneration Program. And we want to really appreciate the support from the various partners, that we want to make sure that Nairobi becomes the green city under the sun, as it were. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not philanthropy. This is a risk management for supply chains, asset protection for natural resources, and value creation for communities and stakeholders alike. When you invest in landscape restoration through KT, you are not only merely planting trees, but you are doing the following. One, we are securing the water tower that your factories and farms depend on, and that is, I'm speaking to all of us. Secondly, we are stabilizing the climate that your supply chains rely on. Thirdly, we are protecting the biodiversity that underpins our agricultural productivity. Fourthly, we are building the natural infrastructure, as DG mentioned, that sustains Kenya's economy. And lastly, that we are restoring the soils that anchor life on the earth. Biodiversity is not a cost center, ladies and gentlemen. It is a foundation of long-term enterprise value. ESG therefore supports Kenya to meeting and exceeding expectations, Kenya's climate ambitions. And as a country, we have made ambitious climate commitments. Namely, one, our nationally determined contributions, updated and strengthened, commit us to significant emission reductions and adaptation action. Secondly, is on the carbon market activation plan, which is creating the regulatory framework for carbon trading and transparency within the carbon market space, and that ESG provides the mechanism for corporate Kenya to become the engine of ambition. And through KT's corporate carbon programs, your organizations can do the following. One, we will be able to generate, or you can be able to generate verified carbon credits aligned with the Kenya's NDC commitments. We have a very robust carbon markets law, and this is so important for us as government. Secondly, we'll be able to demonstrate measurable climate impact through independent verifications. We'll be able to assess carbon markets that are growing exponentially. We'll be able to build climate resilience across operations and supply chains, and also assess blended finance that de-risks investments and leverages public capital. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a compliance exercise. This value creation, generation of carbon assets that can be traded, monetized, and leveraged for competitive advantage. I challenge you, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, to think differently, that every ton of carbon that your organization sequesters is an asset, that every hectare of your company restores is an investment, that every community you engage in is a partner in shared prosperity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, the regulatory landscape is shifting. The Central Bank of Kenya's climate risk guidelines and the Capital Markets Authority's ESG requirements are bringing international standards into our domestic regulatory spaces. And therefore, companies that act now will do the following. One, shape the regulatory conversation rather than reacting to it. Secondly, you will define the industry best practice rather than chasing it. Three is that you will build the internal capacity that regulators will eventually require. And fourthly, that you will achieve compliance before it becomes mandatory, turning a cost into an advantage. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I want to emphasize that the tree economy is not a distant frontier. It is the destination, and ESG is the vehicle that gets us there. Kenya's relationship with the environment is anchored in one critical asset: world-class science, seafood and aircraft, for example, working together as landscape alliance produces globally respected research and solutions in forestry, agroforestry, and landscape restoration that has identified Africa's trillion-dollar tree-powered bioeconomy as the next frontiers of Africa's global economic leadership. Yet until now, ladies and gentlemen, collaboration between these science and Kenya's corporate sector has remained structurally limited, and this forum therefore bridges that gap. Landscapes and land science makes ESG reporting credible, it makes carbon claims verifiable, it makes landscape investments bankable, it transforms tree planting from a publicly exercise into a measurable, auditable, and investable asset. And therefore, I challenge every corporate leader here today, your sustainability reporting must be credible, your carbon claims must be verified, your ESG disclosures must withstand scrutiny, and Landscapes Alliance Science gives you that credibility. And by the close of this forum, we expect to have building blocks of a new corporate sustainability culture in Kenya, one that moves from compliance to leadership, from reporting to investment, from episodic CSR to permanent transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, to all the corporate leaders in this room, let us write the next chapter through a partnership between the public policy, science, scientific excellence, and private sector capital. Let us raise the bar on ESG. Your commitment is our engine. Let us build Africa's model for integrated ESG governance, nature-based investment, and a scaled tree economy that delivers climate resilience, rural livelihoods, and biodiversity restoration. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the opportunity is before us. The time is now, and I have every confidence that this corporate Kenya will rise to meet it. Asanteni sana. God bless you. God bless Kenya. Thank you so much.
Another round of applause for our PS. Thank you so much, PS, for your leadership. Over the time that you have served as a PS for environment and climate change, we've seen several milestones, including the newly updated NDC for the country, but also very strong leadership in the space of biodiversity and land degradation. For those who don't know, Kenya just hosted the global celebration for World Desertification and Drought Day on 17th of June, and we are proud, of course, also to be able to work with you in making a showcase of Kenya's solution to the world in terms of the land degradation and environment. At this stage, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with the opening plenary and the keynote speech. That also marks my end to being in this podium. But I want to leave you in the hands of two great ladies and one gentleman. So allow me to invite first Kipto Moyo, Kipto, and Vintage Mwangi, who will then be able to take you through the next session, and also to introduce Zainab Wandati. Who is Zainab? I think Zainab needs no introduction. Zainab will be taking us through as the moderator of the two panels. But for now, I would like to invite Jerry Quer, who is the Executive Director of Amina Life Foundation, to take us through what is Kete. Everybody's asking. And as Jerry does that, I think our keynote speaker and chief guest had requested to leave. So I think on behalf of all the participant PS, would be okay to appreciate your presence and your support. Thank you so much, Jerry.